the 14th of March, 1879, in the small German city of Ulm, whose ancient motto read, "The people of Ulm are mathematicians." A child was born who would one day prove that motto, truer than anyone had imagined. Welcome to Universal Biographies. We're glad you're here. If stories of extraordinary lives inspire you, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. And if you're enjoying the journey so far, a like means more than you know. Albert Einstein was slow to talk. So slow, in fact, that his parents consulted a doctor, and the family housekeeper called him the stupid one. Even after he began to speak, he had a strange habit of whispering sentences quietly to himself before saying them aloud, rehearsing each phrase until it felt right. But inside that seemingly slow child, something extraordinary was building. When Albert was 4 or 5 years old, his father gave him a compass while he was sick in bed. The needle moved, always north, always pulled by an invisible force, and the boy trembled. He would spend the rest of his life chasing the hidden order behind things. His mother, a gifted pianist, began his violin lessons early. He resisted at first, until someone showed him Mozart. From that moment, music was never separate from his science. For the rest of his life, when a physics problem stumped him, he would pick up his violin and play. The solution often arrived in the middle of a sonata. At school, his teachers found him infuriating. He would sit in the back row, staring into the distance with a quiet smile. Not because he wasn't paying attention, but because he was thinking somewhere far beyond the lesson. One teacher declared that his very presence undermined the respect of the class. At 16, he conducted his first great thought experiment, one that would haunt him for a decade. What would it feel like, he wondered, to ride alongside a beam of light at the exact same speed? The question seemed almost childish. The answer would shatter the foundations of physics. After failing the entrance exam to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich, he excelled in mathematics and physics, but stumbled in French and botany. He spent a year at a progressive school in the village of Aarau, Switzerland. There, students were encouraged to think in images, to visualize before they calculated. It was exactly the kind of education he had always needed. He entered the Polytechnic in 1896 and immediately fell in love with physics, with Zurich, and with the only woman in his cohort, a dark-eyed, serious Serbian student named Mileva Marek. She was brilliant, passionate, and deeply serious. Albert wrote her letters of electric tenderness. His mother, fiercely opposed to the match, called her that woman. He graduated in 1900, but could find no academic position. His professor refused to recommend him. He sent applications across Europe, all rejected. For 2 humiliating years, he gave private lessons, tutored students, and survived on the charity of friends, while Mileva gave birth to a daughter they named Leah Lel, whose fate remains, to this day, unknown. Salvation came in 1902 through a friend's father who helped him secure a post as a technical assistant, 3rd class, at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. The work suited him perfectly. He reviewed other people's inventions by day, and by night, on pages hidden in his desk drawer, he was rewriting the laws of the universe. In 1905, Albert Einstein, patent clerk, 26 years old, not yet a doctor, published 4 papers that would collectively rank among the most important scientific documents ever written. Scientists would later call it the Annus Mirabilis, the miraculous year. The first paper explained the photoelectric effect, proving that light behaves not only as a wave, but as a stream of discrete particles, which he called quanta. This was the work for which he would eventually win the Nobel Prize. It laid the foundations of quantum mechanics, a revolution Einstein himself would spend the next 50 years fighting. The second confirmed the existence of atoms by mathematically explaining the jittery random motion of particles in a liquid, something scientists had observed but never been able to explain. The third determined the actual size of atoms. Together, they settled a debate that had divided science for decades. The fourth paper introduced the special theory of relativity, abolishing the absolute space and time of Newton and replacing them with something altogether stranger. Space and time were not fixed backdrops to the universe. They were part of the story, warped by motion, intertwined into a single fabric, space-time. And then, weeks later, almost as an afterthought, he sent a brief addendum to his fourth paper. In it, he proposed that energy and mass were equivalent, related by a constant, the speed of light squared. He wrote it as 3 letters and a number, E equals Mach squared. It was the most famous equation in the history of science. Recognition came slowly. The physics world was cautious. But Max Planck, one of the greatest physicists alive, read the papers and understood immediately what had happened. He championed Einstein across Germany, and the patent clerk's ascent began. By 1909, Einstein held his first university professorship. By 1914, he was in Berlin, at the very center of European science. But Einstein was not done. The special theory only described objects moving at constant speed. For 10 grueling years, he wrestled with a far deeper problem: how to incorporate gravity. The breakthrough came in November 1915, when he finally derived the field equations of the general theory of relativity. He later said he felt something give way inside him. "I was beside myself with joy." General relativity revealed that gravity was not a force at all, as Newton had assumed, but a curvature of space-time caused by mass. Matter told space-time how to curve. Space-time told matter how to move. It was a vision of the cosmos of breathtaking elegance, and it made a prediction: starlight should bend as it passes near the sun. On the 29th of May, 1919, during a total solar eclipse, British astronomer Arthur Eddington photographed stars near the darkened sun from the island of Principe off the coast of Africa. The stars appeared shifted, exactly as Einstein's equations predicted. The news reached the world's front pages overnight. Einstein became famous beyond any scientist who had ever lived. The fame was overwhelming and, to Einstein, sometimes absurd. Crowds mobbed his train at stations. Newspapers devoted front pages to his theories. He was photographed constantly, interviewed endlessly, invited everywhere. He had wanted to understand the universe, and instead he had become one of its most recognizable inhabitants. In 1921, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics, not for relativity, which the Nobel committees still found too radical, but for the photoelectric effect. He did not attend the ceremony in Stockholm. He was on a ship to Japan. He sent the prize money to Mileva, fulfilling a promise he had made to her years before their divorce. Through the 1920s, he became a passionate Zionist traveler, raising funds for a Hebrew university in Jerusalem and an early voice for Jewish cultural identity. Even as he remained an instinctive pacifist who despised nationalism in all its forms, he was a citizen of the world who belonged to none of its nations. Meanwhile, a revolution he had helped start was turning against his deepest instincts. Quantum mechanics, built partly on his own discoveries, was producing a picture of reality governed by probability and uncertainty. Einstein refused to accept it. "God does not play dice," he insisted. Niels Bohr replied, "Einstein, stop telling God what to do." In January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Einstein was in California at the time. He never went back. He renounced his German citizenship, resigned his Berlin post, and accepted a position at the newly founded Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, a sanctuary for the world's most brilliant refugee minds. Princeton suited him. He walked to work every morning in a rumpled sweater, wild white hair uncombed, a pipe clenched between his teeth. He was kind to strangers and children. He played violin in local chamber concerts. And each day, alone in his office, he filled page after page with equations in his decades-long search for a unified field theory, a single set of laws that would describe all the forces of nature. In August 1939, he signed the most consequential letter of his life. Written with physicist Leo Szilard and addressed to President Franklin Roosevelt, it warned that uranium could be used to build extremely powerful bombs of a new types, and that Nazi Germany might already be working on one. The Manhattan Project began shortly after. When atomic bombs destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, Einstein heard the news on the radio. "Away," he reportedly said, "woe is me." He had not worked on the bomb directly, but his equation, E equals mc squared, was the physics underneath it. He spent the rest of his life campaigning against nuclear weapons and for a world government that could prevent their use. In 1948, his old friend Chaim Weizmann became the first president of the new state of Israel. When Weizmann died in 1952, the Israeli government offered the presidency to Einstein. He declined. "I am deeply moved by the offer," he wrote, "and at once saddened and ashamed that I cannot accept it. I lack both the natural aptitude and the experience for dealing with people." On the 17th of April, 1955, Einstein was admitted to Princeton Hospital with an aortic aneurysm. He brought with him several pages of equations, still working, even now, on the unified field theory that had eluded him for 30 years. In the early hours of April 18th, the greatest scientific mind of the modern age died quietly in his sleep. He was 76 years old. His brain was removed by the pathologist on duty, without the family's full consent, and kept for decades of scientific study. His body was cremated, his ashes scattered at an undisclosed location. He'd asked that there be no grave, no monument, no place where people might come to worship. He had spent a lifetime resisting the cult of genius. He did not want one built around him in death. And yet we still live inside his universe. Every GPS satellite that guides your navigation compensates for relativistic time distortion. Every laser in every scanner, every fiber optic cable, every solar panel operates on principles he pioneered. When astronomers photograph a black hole or detect gravitational waves rippling through space-time, they are confirming equations he wrote down more than a century ago. What made Einstein was not raw computational power. He was a good mathematician, not a supreme one. What made him was imagination. The willingness to ask, as a child asks, what if I could ride a beam of light? What if gravity is not a force, but a shape? What if space and time are not separate things at all? Thank you for watching this story of Albert Einstein's remarkable life. If this biography moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Universal Biographies. Every subscription helps us bring more extraordinary lives to light.